So today, we're going to dive into a really fascinating organization that's taking on a massive challenge, trying to build a culture of human rights in one of the world's most complex regions. We're talking about the South Asia Forum for Human Rights, or SAFHR for short, and how they're building bridges where, honestly, most people have only ever seen walls.
But before we get into the who, let's talk about the why. It all starts with a huge question. How in the world do you protect people's rights across borders when there's no single official authority to step in and help? I mean, really think about that. This is the puzzle that led to the creation of the group we're looking at today.
And to really get why an organization like SAFHR is so vital, you got to see the big picture. You look at Europe, right? They've got these strong intergovernmental bodies for human rights. But in South Asia, well, it just doesn't have that same kind of setup. There's no big regional court or commission with teeth, and that leaves a massive gap when it comes to protecting people.
And here's why that gap is a huge deal. The problems in South Asia don't care about lines on a map. You've got armed conflicts, huge numbers of people being displaced, issues with minority rights, refugees. These are shared crises that spill across borders. No one country can fix them alone. You absolutely need a regional approach.
Okay, so you've got this huge problem, this vacuum. Who's going to step in? Well, this is where our story really kicks off. A solution emerges not from governments, but from civil society. Enter the South Asia Forum for Human Rights.
So what is SAFHR exactly? Well, at its heart, it's a forum, a meeting place. Think of it as a space created by activists and scholars for activists and scholars. It's where people from all over South Asia can come together and actually talk, strategize, and work on the big three: human rights, peace, and democracy.
Let's rewind a bit. The year is 1990. The city is New Delhi. A few key figures, including Richard William Tim, Tapam Kumar Bose, and Sushil Pokhrel, get together. And they have this really clear, and you gotta say, pretty ambitious mission: to weave together all these separate little activist groups across the region into one strong, connected network.
Now, here's what I think is really cool about their whole philosophy. Their game plan, their blueprint for action, goes way beyond just, legal briefs and court cases. Their vision is so much broader than that.
It all boils down to one simple but incredibly powerful idea. Human rights violations are not random, isolated events. Nope. They are symptoms of much deeper, systemic problems.
So SAFHR is all about connecting the dots. They don't just look at an abuse, they dig deeper. They ask, how does constant conflict and militarization affect everyday people? How do big development projects end up pushing communities off their land? And what does the way a country treats its minorities or refugees say about its real commitment to democracy?
All right, so if that's the why, what about the how? What does SAFHR actually do on the ground? Well, their toolkit is seriously diverse. It covers everything from education all the way to high-level advocacy. You can kind of break their method down into 4 key steps, and they really build on each other. First up is education, training the next generation of activists and journalists. Then comes dialogue, actually getting people from different countries, sometimes even rival countries, to talk to each other. Third is research, where they produce these incredibly detailed, hard-hitting reports. And finally, they take all that research and use it for advocacy, pushing for real, concrete change.
And believe me, this isn't just theory. We're talking about real, boots-on-the-ground work. They do things called peace audits in places like Kashmir. They've published landmark reports, like one called Reduced to Ashes on Punjab, that really shook things up. They're on the ground supporting people-to-people dialogues between India and Pakistan. And their educational courses? They're a flagship program for creating new leaders across the region.
Their goals are just as concrete. Job 1, expose abuses and give a voice to people who have been silenced. They're also building those crucial communication networks for activists. And they're out there campaigning for countries to actually sign and follow UN rules on refugees. Critically, they also lobby the official government bodies, like the South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation, or SARC, trying to convince them to create those official human rights systems the region so desperately needs.
So, they've been at this for over 3 decades now. What's the big picture? What's the real legacy of all this work? Why does an organization like SAFHR matter so much? Let's zoom out and look at the impact. If you take away one thing, let it be this. SFHR's most important work is building something you can't always see, but that is absolutely essential: a regional culture of human rights. It's not about building a courthouse. It's about building a shared belief system. And in a place where governments can be weak or unwilling to act, that shared culture becomes an incredibly powerful force.
I mean, think about what that actually does. It provides a platform that lets people connect across borders that are often hostile. It strengthens the skills of local activists. It makes these amazing cross-border networks possible. And ultimately, it creates a shared language, a common understanding of what rights and democracy should look like across South Asia. You could say SAFHR has become the region's human rights connective tissue.
And that really leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? The story of SAFHR isn't just about South Asia. In a world where national borders feel like they're getting harder and more divisive every day, are these grassroots cross-border networks built by ordinary people? Are they our best, maybe even our last real hope for protecting human rights for everyone? It's definitely something to think about.